I have a million questions that I'm asked all the time about being an entrepreneur. What's it like, and is it scary being an entrepreneur, and how did you get started? And there's a million questions people want to ask you. And I thought to myself, bang, one day, wouldn't it be great to have an entrepreneur's masterclass where I can bring some of these unbelievable people, people like we read about them and we read their stories. They're legendary, but we only see them on film and we have visualization of what they are, but actually to sit down with them and talk to them. I thought, wouldn't that be a wonderful way to learn? Nothing's new. I remember watching the old actor classes several years ago, how they visualized and how they created their careers and how they just kept getting better and better. And I thought to myself at that time, what a wonderful way for a young person to learn the craft directly from the old guys. I thought it was a very elegant way to teach. I'm Peter Thomas, and welcome to the Peter Thomas Entrepreneurs Masterclass. Have we got a great class for you today? As a successful entrepreneur, one thing that I've found absolutely needed for success is mentorship. And through all of my adult life and with every new business I launched, I was very fortunate in that I had mentors. And I still have mentors today. I want to share some of those mentors with you. Mentors are essential for entrepreneurial success. And there's no better mentors than those with deep experiences of ups and downs, wins and losses, and during those wild, unpredictable market times, such as we find ourselves navigating through right now. Well, today's guest I have known for decades. His name is Neil Balter. And I'm so looking forward to this interview because if anyone is qualified to teach people, not only entrepreneurship, but the journey of life, it's Neil. He is one of the best role models on the planet for entrepreneurs for just so many reasons. I'm going to tell you just a few of Neil's accomplishments, just a few of them. But he was 17 years old when he founded the worldwide brand California Closets. And it grew from his dad's garage into the world's largest custom closet company in just under a decade. It expanded to the United States, Canada, Japan, Australia, New Zealand, and Spain. Everybody knows California Closets. And in 1990, just before his 30th birthday, Neil negotiated a multi-million-dollar sale of that company to Williams and Sonoma. He had his first exit. Well, he didn't quit there. He went to a public company for a while, ran a public company, and in the food business. And then in 1995, he started Organizers Direct, which was just back into the closet business. He can't keep Neil out of the closet. He just has to get back into the closet all the time. And now he works with more than 500 closet dealers and all across the world. So Neil also was a founding member of the Young Entrepreneurs Organization, and he was one of its former presidents. I'm going to turn you over now to Dr. Tim Schulte, who's going to interview and carry on the interview with Neil.
Neil, let's start back in those very early years. Take us back to that garage and the time of building California Closets for the first time. What prompted you to do that? How did that come about?
It goes back one step before that. I was 17. I was in my final year of high school. My brother was in university at the time, and my parents sat me down and said, "What do you want to do? Where do you want to go to university?" And I said, "Mom, I've decided I'm not going to go to university." And they were shocked. And she said, "Well, what do you want to do?" I said, "Well, I think I'm going to become a carpenter." She paused for a second. She thought, "Son, there are no Jewish carpenters in this world. There was one. He had better connections than you, and look what happened to him." She goes, "We don't do that thing in our culture." So, but having said that, never went to college, graduated about a month or two after that. The funny thing was, a friend of mine, I went to pick up a friend of mine to go out. His father asked me to build some shelves in the closet. He knew I was a carpenter trying to become one. And I did that. And, that was the beginning of California Closets. I was just turned 18 years old and started now, and this is interesting because it goes through what Peter's saying, is originally Marvin, my friend's dad, wanted me and his kid to do it. The kid didn't want to do it. So eventually Marvin did it with me, his dad, and he became my first mentor. And I can't tell you, between 4 or 5 mentors that I've had, including Peter over the years, how important that is, especially when you're 18 years old and you've got this new idea of organizing closets. I mean, you're an 18-year-old, you walk into the bank and you tell them I'm starting a closet company, and they give you a look at it, the corner of the eye, which isn't so nice. So that was kind of the very beginnings of California Closets, and that was in 1978, June of 78. At that point, it was really just, I was 18, and all of a sudden I only had one real job in my life. It was working at a supermarket as a bagger. Once I started this closet company, I went from making $10 an hour to $300 or $400 a day. Now, this is back in 1978, right? And I thought, God, I died and went to heaven. And then I kind of got that bug of, hey, this could be a great business, and, a big business and whatnot. And, one thing about my business over the years is, right, wrong, or indifferent, everybody looks at it and says, what a great idea that is. They might not want to buy it, but they still think it's a good idea. And one of the other things I so much liked about our business comparatively to other home improvements is you buy a water heater for $500. What do you get? Hot water. Exactly what you had. When mainly women are buying our product, they're so excited about it. It's like a piece of jewelry or new golf clubs for a guy. They're just really enthusiastic about getting their closets done. So it makes it a fun business also. So that's a great question. And it came down to another one of my mentors. So what happened is Marvin was my partner for the first 2 years. At the end of 2 years, he had put up $1,000 in a van. That was our starting, $1,000. At the end of 2 years, I bought him out for like 20 grand, paid him $1,000 a month for 2 years or something. I went back and took a part-time marketing class at a college, Pierce College in San Fernando Valley. Anyway, the professor was a man named David Siegel. David was the guy who invented the convertible sofa. Okay, had sold out to U.S. industry, started teaching college. He became my second mentor. And David really made a big difference in my life. So at this point, I was 20 years old, hair halfway down my back, living the good life. David said, hey, if you want me to help you, you got to clean your act up, get a haircut. If I'm going to introduce you to people, you got to be presentable, blah, blah, blah. So David, for the first time, took me into the LA Times. Up until then, I had never advertised. Okay. It was all word of mouth. Took me into the LA Times. And at one point, he was one of the biggest advertisers there. So all of a sudden, I'm meeting with the publisher, the VP of marketing, all these big shots that I would have never met if it wasn't for David. And they got a story done in the newspaper. They got my ads done for me. And all of a sudden, everything took off. And I thought to myself, wow, this is going to be an unbelievable business. And that was around 80, 81. And David was also the gentleman who got me to franchise, which was the next kind of big step in the building of California Closets, was the franchise thing. So David helped me get the franchise agreement, really worked for me. Now, few of his kids bought the local franchises in Los Angeles, so I guess he thought it was a good idea too. And so we just started going along, and we were opening up franchises, and everything was fantastic. I mean, I was 21, 22. It was 1983. We had, probably 15 franchises. And then once again, one of the luckiest things ever happened to me. So because I'm really the luckiest who can't catch a break, but I'll get to that later. So I'm flying from Sacramento down to Los Angeles, back home. And for once I sit down and there's a really attractive girl sitting next to me. Usually I get the guy, 300 pounds, takes half my seat. Anyway, so I start talking to her and I'm talking to her and I'm giving her the whole pitch, and we're kind of getting ready to land. And I ask her out and I said, hey, maybe we can get together for dinner. And she goes, I don't think so. But she hands me her business card and she says, I'm a reporter and I'd like to do a story on you and your company. And sure enough, she worked for the Wall Street Journal. Okay. And about a month later, big article came out on the front page of the second section of the Wall Street Journal and changed everything. Okay. Just changed. We went from probably getting 1 or 2 inquiries or 3 inquiries a month for franchises to where literally got 500 over the next week, to the point where we just couldn't handle it. Almost put us out of business because we just couldn't handle the influx. But like every entrepreneur, we adjusted, we adapted, we made it work. And now we were off to the races. Okay. Now, it taught me a big lesson. And this is one of the lessons that I've really learned as a marketer is up until then, we were doing a lot of advertising for franchises. And again, we were getting 4 or 5 inquiries a month. That article in the Wall Street Journal got us, again, hundreds, if not thousands of inquiries. So what was the lesson I learned? Advertising is cursed. Editorial is blessed. We stopped advertising. We took all that money. We went to a PR company, hired a PR company. Over the next 3 or 4 years, I was on Oprah 4 times, Good Morning America, Today Show. We did every local talk show around the country. So what we did is, you know how you have the local talk shows, AM, Los Angeles, whatever it is, they'll come and have a gardener come on once every 3 months and teach them what to plant, or a chef. I was the organization guy. So we organized their closets and we did their pantries and we did their garages and it worked. And so we literally built the retail side and the franchise side from PR. And it worked. It was fantastic. It taught me a really big lesson. It helped both on getting franchises, but also on the retail side. The best month we ever had, I was on Oprah 4 times. One of the times I was on there, she goes, Neil, I had my closets done and made me feel lighter and better. And she went on and on, had a record month next month. So you learn those lessons all the way of the powers that are there for entrepreneurs to tap into. PR, marketing, guerrilla marketing, doing things differently than everybody else. So those are a few of the things that I've picked up along the way.
As you think along the way of your successful journey, and it is easy, as you mentioned, look back and say, wow, what a great idea. But I'm sure there were ups and downs as you talk about, there are times where it is challenging. How would you describe your journey? If you were to use just a few words, how would you describe the journey?
I am absolutely categorically the luckiest guy in the world who can't catch a break. And I'll get to that part of it. The beginning from 18 to 30, just all good things happened to me. All this marketing and the company exploding. And I was able to negotiate the sale to Williams-Sonoma. I was 29, right? And sold the company for $11 million back then. And that was back in 1990. And it was a big, that was a big deal for me. So all that stuff was fantastic. And then I've learned everything's great until one day it isn't. And everything changed like that. So after, selling the company and taking a few years off and whatnot, I got married. The first thing that happened to us after we got married, my son was diagnosed with autism. And it changes your life. In a lot of ways, it changed my life for the better because up until it affected us, I was very much into myself. And that was a defining moment that made me into other people and helping other people and supporting other people and understanding that we're blessed. And with that comes a responsibility. And so like every entrepreneur, I dived into autism. And what was I going to do as an entrepreneur? I was going to fix it because that's what we do. We fix things. Well, it only takes a matter of time until you figure out you don't fix autism. You manage it, you support it, you try to provide the very best outcome for the kids because it's a lifelong deal, right? Never get over it. And so my wife and I, we threw ourselves into it. And the first thing we did is we started an autism walk in Phoenix. And we're really proud of it. The first year we had this walk, we had about, 3,000 people and raised 125 grand. Over the next 15 years, now we get 20,000 people. We raise about $1 million a year. We probably raised in excess of $11-12 million since we've started it. And my wife and I have ran that from day dot. And, it's something that we can physically put our fingers on and say, with a lot of help. And don't think it's just us. I mean, it takes a huge amount of support and teamwork and whatnot. But the vision's there, the motivation's there. The keeping people involved. One of the things that I'm most proud of is the people that run this walk have ran it for 15 years and they're friends of ours and they've stayed with us the whole time, including the Thomases and whatnot. And they're very supportive. And so what I learned by that is another part of what I did there is wrote a program called Daddy Boot Camp, which is for newly diagnosed fathers. Divorce rate in autism, 80%. And so mostly the men run. And so I started this program to get them to understand it. So that, that's on the autism side, right? And another thing that proved to me is that one of the things, and we'll get into it about philanthropy, that I've learned is up until that, I was a check writer, okay? Always donated the money, always, donated closets to charity auctions and whatnot. But what that did when all of a sudden we got involved in autism, you never get the full benefit of philanthropy unless you're close to the people it's helping, unless you see that this is the money and you meet with these people and you see how your support and help changes the trajectory of their lives, right? It's easy to write a check and you do it out of obligation and to support a friend, but not out of satisfaction. You get your best satisfaction out of participating. So that first step and kickoff into autism brought me from a check writer to a participator, and it was important.
Share with us a little bit of your perspective. Having been an entrepreneur, what is the connection between entrepreneurship, especially successful entrepreneurship, and the aspect of giving and the aspect of not just being that check writer, but being that active participant?
I call it philanthropreneurship. Okay, being a philanthropist and an entrepreneur at the same time. And one of the keys for me is trying to find things that are different. You know, I've raised a lot of money, and I don't have any problem asking for money. Okay, I just don't, especially to my friends because they can afford it. But the issue is that doesn't solve the problem. You got to come up with programs that are continuing revenue streams. You don't start over every year in philanthropy. And that's where I think entrepreneurs really shine in philanthropy because they think out of the box. So to give you an example of some programs we've done, one of the things we've done that you see all over now is donate at the cash register. You're buying something at Safeway, add $1 or $5. I believe one of my mantras for fundraising is make it easy and they will come. Make it easy for them to donate. And they'll donate. So they're buying their groceries. Can you add $5 for autism? Yeah, sure, no problem. Boom, hit the button. It's easy, right? Getting them to go to the website and filling it out and not as easy. Another one of the really successful programs that we put forward was donating unused PPO hours. Okay, so you work for a company, you have your paid time off, your PTO hours. So what happens is someone making, 60, 70, 80 grand a year, to try to get them to write a check is very difficult. But you go in there and you tell them what we're doing and why we're doing it, and they can donate 1 day or 2 days of PTO hours that are just sitting in their account. It's fantastic. They don't have to write a check. We end up with $300-400 donation. It's great for the company because it doesn't cost the company any money because they've got to accrue for the PTO. It's a liability sitting on their books. So again, it was just a unique program where we could, because one thing you realize when you do a lot of fundraising as an entrepreneur, I walk in and talk to you, Tim, and I'm so passionate about autism and I get you so excited about it. I walk out, juvenile diabetes walks in. And they're just as passionate about their product. And after them, it's Alzheimer's. Oh, and then after them, it's the Heart Association. And then the cancer. My point is everybody is just as passionate about their cause as I am about autism. So you've got to, as an entrepreneur, come up with unique and different ways to separate yourself from the pack. And that's coming up with ways is, one of the things I always tell CEOs is, guys, I sat in that desk for 25 years of people coming in and asking me money. I know what you're going through. I've been through it. So here are some different ways to do it that the company gets the benefit of it. It doesn't cost you any money. Everybody wins. And they're the best ones. And I think those are the kind of things that entrepreneurs bring to that philanthropreneurship is new and unique ideas. One of the other things that we do is we support the homeless in Arizona. And we got involved with this with my wife from the time the kids were very young, used to make the kids, still does. They make Ziploc baggies, and in there they put a pair of socks, toothpaste, toothbrush, a bar of soap, a granola bar. I think that's it. And we keep them in our cars. And so instead of passing out money, we give them these sanitation packs. So twice or three times a year, we'll go down to Roosevelt World in downtown Phoenix, where all the homeless are. So down there, I had this vision what I was going to see, right? There was going to be angry, drunk street people and blah, blah, blah. I had it, you have this vision. And I went down there and I was shocked. It was exactly opposite of what I thought. It was women, it was kids, it was families. Forget about them being angry. They were so thankful that you were there and appreciative. So we're passing blankets and all this stuff out. And, you know, a lady comes up in her shopping cart and I hand her a blanket. She goes, "Oh, I don't need a blanket. I have one. Give it to the next person." I mean, this is a woman who's living out of a shopping cart. So the end of the day comes and we are just flat out of everything, right? And a couple walks up and they've got a kid with them, looks to be 7, 8 years old. And I explained to him, I said, "I'm just really sorry. We're out of everything. I wish I had something for you." Not angry, not mad. Again, thank you. That's okay. Thanks for coming. Everyone here appreciates it and whatnot. So I reach in my pocket. All I've got is a $50 bill. Right? I'm like, "Here, just take the $50 bill." So, you know, they thank me and whatnot. So they leave, and then the husband comes back and he says, "Neil, can I talk to you for a second?" And I said, "Sure." And he said, "You know, I don't think you realize what this did for us." And I said, "Well, I hope it helps." And he goes, "No, you don't understand. Our kid hasn't had a shower or a bath in a week. He hasn't had a hot meal in 2 weeks. This is going to enable us to get him a hotel room for the night, hot meal, and cleaned up. And my wife wanted to give you a hug, but she didn't want you to be scared. You know, they're street people, so you can imagine what they look like." So she comes up and we start hugging, and she's crying, and I'm crying, and the kid's crying. And from that day forward, Tim, it affects you because, again, you're something so stupid as a $50 bill to me affects these people. And when you go through something like that, this is 3, 4 years ago, and you can hear how I tell the story because it affects you as a person. If it doesn't, you got to be dead or just have no heart. And so these wraps back to what I was saying. Until you are close to the people you're helping, you never really get the full benefit of seeing what that does. I want to help more, not less. And I'll do it any way I can. I mean, even today, we meet with 2 to 3 newly diagnosed parents every single month that I work with on trying to get them through that first 6 months of autism because it's horrific. So, you know, those are the life lessons that we learn. And a lot of times as early on entrepreneurs, you're so focused on building your business and whatnot that it takes kind of an event like that for you to see it. I always thought I was a good person because why? I wrote the check. And writing checks are great, and we need people to write checks, and we need the money for them. But again, at the sake of repeating myself, you never get the satisfaction by writing a check that you do of seeing what that check actually does for people.
If you were to describe your success, you know, in a word or a phrase, you know, what would that be?
The thing that has made me successful, Tim, is my ability to get people to vision, to participate, and to motivate. One of the things that California Closets and Organizers Direct and ClosetMate, the 3 big closet companies that I built, was my ability to get people to buy into the dream and then execute on it. You know, what I enjoyed most at the closet companies were watching the franchisees becoming successful. There's nothing more satisfying than you get someone, because, you know, the bulk of these franchisees, you know, they mortgage their house, they borrow the money, you know, they do whatever they have. And, you know, to watch them become successful, right? Again, you're seeing that end result, right? I'm dealing with someone who's homeless. I'm dealing with someone who has autism. I'm dealing with someone who's managed, you know, mortgage their lives to buy this franchise, and watching all 3 of these or 4 of these people become successful or become better people, and to help them. That's the motivation that I try to give people. And that has always been my success, is getting people to see the dream, understand it, buy into it, and execute on it. Let there be no mistake. I do not believe in things. I believe in experiences. I believe in people. No one will ever sit on their deathbed and say, you know, Peter, remember that couch we bought? That was the most awesome couch in the world. Who gives a shit about a couch? It's about people. It's about experiences, about doing things. It's about understanding what other people are going through. You know, one lesson I learned, it was interesting, from Phil Carroll, Peter. And you know Phil as well as I do, and Phil was Phil. But you know what? Phil always asked people about them. He always wanted to talk about them, not himself. He wanted to talk about their kids, their lives. And it was a real lesson that I learned from Phil of being interested in other people and talking to them about their issues and their what's they're going through, not trying to have the conversation be about you. Again, there's Phil, a friend of mine who was a mentor to me that I really learned an important lesson from.
As we both know, franchising is quite a driving and exciting business to get into. And you've changed, like literally with your closets, hundreds of thousands of lives in the way they have their homes. They have your product in all these homes now after you've been doing this out there for like 30 plus years. And a question I've got for you, since you actually built your business from the ground up and it still survives after you've long gone, what advice would you give to an entrepreneur if they were thinking of joining a franchise system?
Okay. To me, if you're thinking about buying a franchise system, effort into the franchisor, because it's almost like buying a limited partnership. You're along for the ride and you really got to trust those guys. Now, the one thing I often do tell prospective franchisees, friends that are thinking about buying one, is call a lot of their existing franchisees, but none of the ones that they give you to call. Okay, just get go into any city, start randomly doing it and calling and see if the franchisees are happy. If they're happy, generally, I think you've got a pretty good deal going. And I'm a big believer in franchising because in one way, Peter, it's almost similar to what I do in autism, whatnot. You're taking someone new, you're wrapping your arms around them and you're saying, it's going to be okay. We've done this before. We know what to do. We know what the direction is. It's going to be okay. And so I think that for the average person, franchising is awesome because look at the numbers of the success rate of franchisees compared to independent small businesses in the same field. Speaks for itself.
Who are your mentors today? Who's helping you today, and relative to what's currently going on, relative to what you see going on in the next 6 months, 6 years, and beyond? Who are those folks today?
Well, mentors today, a lot of them, me personally, are books, right? And reading and TED Talks and whatnot. I mean, right now, I'm retired. I mean, I saw my hands and stuff, but I'm semi-retired. So the real issue is asking people that have been through it. One of the fundamental things that I think that we need to do is you need to talk to people who've been through what you're going through. See, I believe very much in Gestalt and the power of form, where you should only talk from experiences. If you haven't experienced what someone's going through, you have no clue what they're thinking and how they're feeling. I was talking to a friend of mine, right? They lost a 21-year-old child. How could I ever understand how that guy's feeling? Because until you lose a child, you can never get that. Until you've gone bust in a business, you don't get it. So I think it's important that if you have an issue, that the person who is mentoring you on that issue has had similar problems like that. Because I think it makes all the difference in the world. Again, if you haven't gone through it, can you give me advice for it? And I do think for entrepreneurs that, especially young entrepreneurs, I think organizations like EO or YPO or CEO, I think those things are tremendously important because you're surrounding yourself with people that are going through the same issues that you're going through. And it's like what I said before. I'm not going to go to someone who's never baked a cake and ask them to bake a cake. They've never done it. Well, why would I go to someone and say, hey, how can I set up a new pay structure or health benefits when they've never done those things? So you really got to look at the issue and go to, people for specific issues, not overall stuff.
These days, and if you were to be mentoring a young entrepreneur or even an experienced entrepreneur, what would you be sharing with that person relative to the pandemic of the markets today and other occurrences in the market today? And I think after this, Peter probably has some follow-up questions as well. So Peter, I'm going to ask you to follow up here. But Neil, how do you see the market today, and what advice would you provide somebody?
It's very simple. Through, again, my whole career, the recessions, the 9/11, the Great Recession, and now The one absolute thing that I've learned is the worst thing that you can do is be paralyzed and do nothing. Okay. I learned it early on. The people that make the tough decisions the quickest are the people that survive. You can't just say, oh, I'll give it another month. I'll give it again, make those hard decisions quick and hard for long-term survival. Didn't do it in the earlier recessions, but came the Great Recession, I did it the first week because I had learned my lesson of trying to hang on because of our empathy and compassion for people. We don't want to lay people off. They've been with us and whatnot. But at one point, the primary goal is survival. Business has got to survive. Now, one of the things that I often laughed at, I think that a custom closet is the poster child for a want-to-have product. Okay, you don't have to spend $2,000 on a custom closet. Now, if your water heater breaks, you got to spend $500 to get your hot. You need hot water, but you don't need that. So we're, like I said, we're the poster child for disposable income, which means making those tough decisions quicker are more important. I think one of the biggest problems when something like this happens is paralysis. They just freeze and don't make any decision. And making no decision is making a decision. So, as tough as it is, take off the rose-colored glasses, be realistic, make the tough decisions, weather it through, and then rebuild. See, I believe in putting lipstick on the pig. Okay. Now, it doesn't make everything better, but it's certainly not going to make it worse. Over the years, you've talked about it, Peter. I am not naive. A positive mental attitude doesn't make everything okay, but a negative one makes it worse. It's that simple. It makes it worse. So through the whole thing is, over 4.5 years, I had, 528 chemo treatments. We had 2 bone marrow transplants, but the perfect thing, like bone marrow transplants, I knew I was going to lose my hair, right? So I could have been pissy and moany about it, but what did I do? Took the dog, the kids, we went down to the salon, I got a purple mohawk, right? And the guy that eat dog's ear is purple, and the kids got purple streaks in their hair. So instead of just being pissy moany that I was going to lose my hair, we made a whole fun day out of it, right? And I'll never forget that night I went to the fancy country club, Silverleaf, right, with the purple hair and the mohawk. It was hysterical. So my point is if you put a positive spin on anything negative, the people around you are going to want to help you more. I believe that you get what you give. If you give kindness and you're friendly to people and whatnot, they'll go out of their way to help.
Relationships are everything. Everything. Family, friends, and that's you. I happen to know you had a 60th birthday party not too long ago and had the biggest Zoom call, probably the biggest Zoom call in history with people from all over the world. That's because you are such a relationship person, because relationships are so valuable to you.
It's funny that you should say that, Peter, because during that Zoom call, I called it my mosaic of the tapestry of my life that I've built, and everybody, it's like a quilt and everybody has a square in it. Because see, to me, Peter, and let there be no mistake, I do not believe in things. I believe in experiences. I believe in people.
One of the things that I've taken away from this is, the earlier conversation was about, what is the phrase or the word that comes to mind when you think about your life and the success in it? And, it's all about people serving people. And, I think based on where we are now in the conversation, I would modify that a little bit and say that it's all about the experience you can create for other people. It is, as you talk about, Neil, these experiences. And it started when you were 16 years old in that garage. You were creating an experience that people could have when they open up a door and everything is organized. Their life becomes organized. Their thoughts become organized, and they see that aspect of beauty that they can walk into that closet and be comfortable and walk out being confident. I think there's a level of connection in everything that you've described here today and the notes that I'm taking. And it's fascinating to hear the story and the lessons, because there is a connection all the way back to when California Closets was just an idea in your mind. And it wasn't even an idea yet. It was, I want to be a carpenter. And it's a carpenter that has stuck with you throughout all of the philanthropic work that you do today as well, relative to building experiences and building connections and managing relationships for the benefit of other people. Because when you give that, then you get a whole lot more. It is about that hug of the individual when they were in need, and you gave them something that meant far more to them than you even thought was possible. And it was $50, right? But it meant something to their kid and what that was going to be able to provide for them at that moment. And so it's not just about walking through life, looking to make money and then from that writing checks on that money to give to other people. It's the experiences that you can make. And I suspect that, as you think about the next 6 months and 12 months and 12 years from now, even if you are semi-retired, Neil, I suspect that is still going to be in your DNA and still part of the path that you continue to walk.
It's about helping people. It is. And again, the thing that happened at the homeless thing, but every time one of these families come to my home, a newly diagnosed family, it ends in tears. It does, because it's such an emotional deal, and it brings my wife and I back to our beginning. But there's nothing more important at that critical time in their lives for someone to wrap their arms around them and say, it's going to be okay. We're here for you. And you forget about how it helps them. Again, the satisfaction I get because someone did it for me when we got diagnosed. It's that paying it forward thing. Someone sent us into SARC and walked us in there, and that's what they did for us, and that's what we need to do for the next families.
When you wrap it up with that way of helping people, what I actually see you as a little bit differently than I ever have. I think I see you more as the ultimate servant. You so have the desire to help, and to it really is to serve. It's what it is. You're serving mankind and the mankind that comes your way. You've lived a blessed life, and we've all been enriched to have the opportunity you share it. And I really want to thank you for sharing it with our Entrepreneur Masterclass. You've been a delightful, delightful guest. Thank you so much.
If I was to wrap it up for all you entrepreneurs out there, there's a couple things. Number one, mission, kindness, empathy, but never give up. If it was easy, everyone would do it. Don't give up. When it gets rough, put your head down, push forward.